In a world where speed defines worth, an aging racehorse and his weathered trainer, both past their prime, are given one last chance to prove that love and perseverance can overcome all odds. But as the starting bell rings and the crowd roars, they must face not only their competitors but also the ghosts of their past, the limits of their bodies, and the weight of their dreams. Will they cross the finish line as champions, or will time finally catch up to them? This is the story of The Last Race, a tale of heart, grit, and the unbreakable bond between two souls who refuse to give up. The morning sun cast long shadows over the quiet stables of Willowbrook Ranch. Dust motes danced in the golden light, and the air smelled of hay, leather, and the faint tang of liniment. In the farthest stall, a chestnut horse stood with his head bowed, his once glossy coat now dulled by age. His name was Thunderbolt, a name that had once struck fear into the hearts of competitors. But now, at 15 years old, he was a relic of the past, a forgotten champion. Beside him, leaning on a cane, stood Sam Carter, his trainer. Sam's once sharp eyes were now clouded with cataracts, and his hands, gnarled by arthritis, trembled as he brushed Thunderbolt's mane. The two of them were a pair of faded legends, their glory days long behind them. "We've still got it, old boy," Sam murmured, his voice rough with emotion. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Thunderbolt snorted softly as if in agreement, but the fire in his eyes had dimmed. The other horses at Willowbrook were younger, faster, and more promising. Thunderbolt was no longer the star. He was an afterthought. That afternoon, a letter arrived at the ranch. Sam's hands shook as he opened it. It was an invitation to the prestigious Golden Crown Derby, a race Thunderbolt had won 5 years ago. The organizers wanted him to participate one last time, not as a competitor, but as a ceremonial runner, a nostalgic nod to the past. Sam crumpled the letter in his fist. "Ceremonial runner?" he muttered. "We're not done yet, Thunderbolt, not by a long shot." Sam knew the odds were against them. Thunderbolt hadn't raced in over a year, and his last performance had been lackluster. The other trainers at Willowbrook laughed when they heard Sam was considering the invitation. "That old nag?" One of them sneered. "He'll be lucky to finish the race without collapsing," but Sam ignored the taunts. He had always believed in Thunderbolt, even when others didn't. He remembered the day he first saw the horse as a foal, all legs and spirit, galloping across the fields like the wind itself. Thunderbolt had been born to run, and Sam was determined to give him one last chance to prove it. That night, Sam sat in his cramped apartment above the stables, poring over old training logs and race videos. His body ached with every movement, but his mind was sharp. He devised a rigorous training plan, one that would push Thunderbolt to his limits without breaking him. The next morning, Sam woke before dawn and limped to the stables. Thunderbolt was already awake, his ears pricked forward as if he sensed something was about to change. Sam led him to the training track, where the first light of day painted the sky in hues of pink and gold. "This is it, boy," Sam said, patting Thunderbolt's neck. "We're going to show them what we're made of." The weeks that followed were grueling. Sam pushed Thunderbolt harder than he had in years, running him through drills, sprints, and endurance exercises. The old horse's body protested at first, his muscles stiff and his breath labored, but slowly the fire in his eyes began to reignite. Sam, too, found a renewed sense of purpose. His arthritis made every movement painful, but he refused to give up. He spent hours massaging Thunderbolt's legs, preparing special meals to boost his strength, and even sleeping in the stables to keep an eye on him. The other trainers at Willowbrook watched with a mix of amusement and pity. "You're wasting your time, Sam," one of them said. "That horse is past his prime." But Sam didn't care. He had always been a man of few words, preferring to let his actions speak for him. And, as the days turned into weeks, Thunderbolt began to transform. His coat regained its luster, his muscles grew taut and powerful, and his stride became fluid and confident. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sam stood at the edge of the training track, watching Thunderbolt gallop effortlessly across the dirt. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized how far they had come. "We're not done yet," he whispered. "Not by a long shot." The day before the Golden Crown Derby, a storm rolled in. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and rain lashed against the windows of Sam's apartment. Sam sat at his kitchen table, staring at the invitation. The words "ceremonial runner" seemed to mock him. He thought about all the sacrifices he had made over the years, the long hours, the missed opportunities, the physical toll. He thought about Thunderbolt, who had given him everything he had. And he thought about the doubters, the ones who said they were too old, too broken, too far gone. "We'll show them," Sam said aloud, his voice steady. "We'll show them all." The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the air crisp and clean. Sam and Thunderbolt arrived at the racetrack early before the crowds had gathered. The other horses were sleek and powerful, their coats gleaming in the sunlight. Thunderbolt stood among them like a ghost from another era. But Sam didn't care. He led Thunderbolt to the starting gate, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. This was it, their last chance to prove that love and perseverance could overcome all odds. The starting bell rang, and the horses surged forward. Thunderbolt stumbled at first, his old legs struggling to find their rhythm. But then something incredible happened. He found his stride, his powerful muscles propelling him forward with a speed that defied his age. Sam watched from the sidelines, his cane forgotten as he cheered Thunderbolt on. The crowd roared as the old horse overtook one competitor after another, his determination shining brighter than ever. In the final stretch, Thunderbolt was neck and neck with the favorite, a young stallion named Lightning Strike. The crowd held its breath as the two horses thundered toward the finish line. And then, with a final burst of speed, Thunderbolt crossed the line first. The crowd erupted in applause, but Sam barely heard it. He was already running toward Thunderbolt, tears streaming down his face. He threw his arms around the horse's neck, whispering words of love and gratitude. "You did it, boy," Sam said, his voice breaking. "You did it." Thunderbolt nuzzled Sam's shoulder, his breath warm and steady. In that moment, they were more than a trainer and a racehorse. They were a testament to the power of love, perseverance, and the unbreakable bond between two souls who refused to give up. And as the sun set on the Golden Crown Derby, Sam and Thunderbolt walked off the track together, their heads held high. They had proven that no matter how old or broken you might be, there's always one last race to run and one last chance to shine. The days following the race were a whirlwind of attention and celebration. Reporters flocked to Willowbrook Ranch, eager to hear the story of the aging racehorse and his trainer who had defied the odds. Sam, never one for the spotlight, found himself overwhelmed by the sudden fame. It wasn't about winning, Sam told one reporter, his voice steady but his eyes glistening with emotion. It was about proving that heart and determination can overcome anything. Thunderbolt taught me that. Thunderbolt, for his part, seemed to bask in the attention. His stall was filled with treats and gifts from admirers, and he greeted every visitor with a gentle nuzzle. But despite the accolades, Sam knew that Thunderbolt's racing days were truly over. The horse had given everything he had in that final race, and it was time for him to rest. With Thunderbolt retired, Sam faced a new challenge, finding purpose in a life without racing. He spent his days tending to Thunderbolt, ensuring the old horse was comfortable and content. But as the weeks passed, Sam began to feel a restlessness he hadn't known in years. One evening, as he sat on the porch of his apartment, watching Thunderbolt graze in the pasture, an idea began to take shape. What if he could pass on everything he had learned to a new generation of trainers and horses? What if he could inspire others to believe in the power of perseverance, just as Thunderbolt had inspired him? The next morning, Sam approached the owner of Willowbrook Ranch with a proposal, a training program for young, inexperienced horses and their handlers. It would be a place where passion and dedication mattered more than pedigree, where every horse had a chance to shine. The owner, impressed by Sam's vision, agreed to fund the program, and so the Thunderbolt Training Academy was born. Years passed, and the Thunderbolt Training Academy became a beacon of hope for underdogs everywhere. Sam, though older and slower, found a new lease on life in mentoring young trainers and horses. Thunderbolt, now in his twilight years, became the Academy's mascot, a living symbol of resilience and heart. Visitors to the Academy often found Sam sitting by Thunderbolt's side, sharing stories of their glory days. "He taught me that it's never too late to chase your dreams," Sam would say, his voice filled with pride. "And that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life." When Thunderbolt finally passed away, the entire ranch mourned. But his legacy lived on in every horse that ran, every trainer who believed, and every dream that refused to die. The day of Thunderbolt's passing was one of the hardest Sam had ever faced. He stood by the old horse's side, stroking his mane as the vet administered the final injection. Thunderbolt's breathing slowed, and his eyes closed for the last time. "You were the best, old boy," Sam whispered, his voice breaking. "The very best." The ranch held a memorial service for Thunderbolt, attended by trainers, jockeys, and fans from all over the country. Sam spoke at the service, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. Thunderbolt wasn't just a horse, he said. He was a symbol of hope, of perseverance, of the belief that no matter how tough the odds, you can always find a way to win. He taught me that, and he taught all of us that. Sam lived to see the Academy flourish, his once weary heart filled with joy and purpose. And though he never trained another racehorse like Thunderbolt, he knew that their story had touched countless lives. One evening, as the sun set over Willowbrook Ranch, Sam stood at Thunderbolt's grave, a simple marker beneath a towering oak tree. He placed a hand on the cool stone and smiled. "We did it, old boy," he said softly. "We showed them all." And as the wind rustled through the leaves, Sam could have sworn he heard the distant thunder of hooves, a reminder that the finish line was never the end, it was just the beginning of a new race.